Let's record. Hi, and welcome to Elian's Journey. I'm so glad to see you today. Welcome and great that you're watching. Maybe you're watching on Roku, Amazon, Apple. And if you're not live here, then watch the replay. I have an amazing guest today. I'm always so excited to have guests. And I had an amazing first 3 months of the year already with super people. And today I have a super woman also as a guest on the show today. I have Patti Stueland. I'm very grateful that you could make the time. It is Easter weekend in New York, in America, I should say, in my neck of the wood. So maybe some of you are very busy with that holiday. Maybe some of you are celebrating Holi, or maybe you're getting ready for Passover. I am glad wherever you are that you are watching or maybe watching the replay. I'm going to introduce Patti Stueland to you. I'm so glad that we met. Patti is living her best dash. And that is the story of her life. It's all about the story of her life. We're going to talk about that today. Patti is a retired teacher, public education for 30 plus years, and continues to work and bring exciting adventures and new things to us. She's a life-cycle celebrant. That is officiating weddings and funerals, right? So, and you have been traveling the United States. What my dream for plus 4 years, 4.5 years now. I love that because there's so much to see. You are the Chief Pathfinder of Pathways with Patti, where you assist people with rediscovering their passion and purpose in life. And that is what we do as coaches. So it's a really, really important thing. And a lot of people are with me there. We need that, right? We all need to have a coach. I'm all for that. So rediscovering your passion and your purpose, we're going to talk about that. Overcoming challenges, overcoming obstacles. We want to make this a better world, and Patti is definitely into that. You are currently also writing Living Your Best Dash. The Dash, we're going to talk about that. A book about that and daring to achieve a successful and happy life. That is what the Dash stands for, and Patti is going to explain that. You're also an independent travel agent. I love that because you are traveling so much. Pathfinder Patti Travel. So you can, we're going to explain, of course, where we can find you afterwards, after talking today on the show. And your passion for travel is obviously taking that into a business, and you help others plan and set up for the joys of exploration. So enjoy the journey with Patti. Tell me about a little bit about Patti. Thank you so much for being on the show. Welcome, welcome as my amazing guest today. Tell me, who is Patti?
Well, I'll tell you what, thank you for having me be here today. What a way to continue having a satisfying Saturday with you and everyone out there that's listening. And thank you for that wonderful introduction. You know, it's one of those things that life presents you with all kinds of challenges and obstacles. And it really comes down to what we choose to do with those challenges and obstacles. And when you were just talking about where I do rediscovering your passion and purpose, that really, that pretty much describes the last 8 years of my life. And, you know, because from the age of 6 until 55, all I had ever wanted to be and all I ever did was to be a public educator. It was my passion. It was my purpose. I absolutely loved it until I didn't. And as I was approaching age 55, I'm kind of noticing that I'm getting burnt out. You know, I'm not feeling good about what I'm doing anymore. And it really took my dad's death at age 50 to really get me to start seeing that I was doing for everybody else. And I don't regret any of that, but I put everything and everybody else before myself. And before I knew it, I was extremely obese. I was I was in a depression, and I was in a funk that I just could not get out of. And because of my Christian belief, I knew there was a reason. There had to be a reason for all of this. Little did I know that it was God's way of letting me know, I'm closing this door on this chapter of your life because I have all these other doors waiting for you to walk through and experience. And but that's still a scary thing to do when that's all you have known basically your whole life. It was my whole being. So it's like, well, if I'm not a teacher anymore, who am I, and what is my purpose? And I can't believe that I'm almost finishing out 8 years of being retired from that. But what I discovered, like you just mentioned in the introduction, is I went. God works in mysterious ways, I know, but I'm looking at the Sunday newspaper, and it had one of the parade magazines in there, and the cover of it says what people 50 and over are doing in for their second careers or something like that. Like, oh
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
let's check out and see what everybody's doing. And then
yeah.
that's where I found the thing about the Life-Cycle Celebrant and looked into that, went back to school.
Mm.
And it kind of went along because 20 years of my profession was being an activities director. So I was in charge of all the dances and proms and graduations and the special assemblies and all
Yeah,
that stuff.
yeah.
And so kind of being an officiate with the same type of thing where I was still involved with events, but not having to do the whole event, just a special part of it.
Yeah.
So I really love doing that. The majority of all of the weddings that I perform have been my former students. So
Ah,
that's been very, very cool. And then
yeah.
the funerals, I really people go, well, why funerals? And it all started because my dad had asked me to officiate his funeral many years earlier than that. And darn it, I did a really good job with his celebration of life service. And I thought, you know what? I have a gift. I've been given a gift to do that.
Yeah.
And because I really believe everybody deserves to have a celebration of life service, not just a funeral,
Mm.
but a celebration of life. And that's what I provide for people. And I've been very blessed to be able to do that. But
Absolutely.
you know, at least I can't speak for other parts of the country, but I know here in America, there is this stigma that once you retire, that means, oh, it's time to get the rocking chair out on that porch. Or you know, you're playing golf all day, or you're doing pickleball or tennis, and there is nothing wrong with that. I've done all of those things. But I just don't like the thought where our society seems to feel once you retire, that's it. You're out to pasture, you have nothing left to offer. And dang it, that is the farthest thing from the truth. And
Absolutely.
that's part of my mission and my goal on, you know, my friend Cece and I were always talking about, you know, if you divide up your life and you look at it, it's kind of like we're in the trimester of our life right now. I'm 63, so I'm
Yes.
in the trimester. And so it's like, what do I want to do with that part of my dash?
Yeah.
And it's going out and doing things that maybe I thought that, oh, that ship has sailed. I'm too old to do that. No, at
Mhm.
60 years old, I started my business, Pathways with Patti.
Yeah.
Became a motivational, inspirational speaker. I do transformational coaching. That led into me a year ago starting my podcast, Rediscovering Your Passion and Purpose with Patti. It's almost been going for a year now, and I've interviewed, I think, 64 people from all over the world
It's like here.
sharing their story, you know. And now I'm writing my book. I became, just in this last December, an independent travel agent. My point is, even if you're choosing to sit in that rocking chair, then you be the very best rocker that you can be. You know, don't set into what society or the norms say about what retirement or any part of your life looks like. You know, you may be older, but you're a lot wiser, and maybe you can't do whatever that is the same as you would have done it in your 20s or 30s or 40s. Maybe you're going to do it even better now because of all the life experience.
Yeah, exactly. And you're touching on so many things that I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's so true because, well, in the first place, I heard your TED Talk in Wilmington. You
Mm.
are a TED Talk speaker, and that is
Yes,
awesome. That is
yes,
yay. And so let's go there first, right? Everybody can put that wisdom somewhere.
yes,
And that is the whole thing that you're touching on. Like, we're the same age. We're there like, well, what am I going to do with the things I've learned? All these life lessons that I really had to grind for some of them, or I acquired through being not so smart, right? And I did
yes,
all the wrong things. So can I please tell you that I did all the wrong things and now I know how to do it right? And so why would I not put it out there somewhere,
yes,
right? And I
yes,
agree with
exactly.
you. Society has a little bit of a hallelujah, now we're going to be retired kind of mentality, and we're going to just do nothing. But it's the most unhealthy thing, mentally, emotionally, physically, that we can do
Yes.
ourselves. And I
Yeah.
think that we have acquired all that, then we have to put it somewhere. That's what I said with writing. We've both written a book. It's like, I want to put it somewhere. I want to get it out of here and put it
Mhm.
down. And to touch on your dad, I remember with my dad, and so he passed away earlier and young. But I was thinking there was so many things he didn't tell me, just didn't share.
Mhm.
Just that didn't did that sharing, and then we have a little bit of that. Let's speak for myself, Elian. I have that bossiness because I'm a teacher at heart, so I'm bossy. I'm gonna want to tell everybody how to do it, but in a nice and loving and kind way. The teaching, it never stops. If
Yes.
you have a tendency that's helping others, if you have a nature of helping others, then that doesn't stop either. That was just yeah. As a teacher, you are an event planner.
Well,
You are
it
a
well,
planner.
and it goes along with those other things when I do see, myself as being in the trimester of my life.
Yeah.
I feel that there is a sageness, a wiseness that comes about, and it's my turn, my time
Yeah.
to pay it forward,
Yeah.
because there were so many people along my life's journey that paid it forward for me to be able to do the things that I was able to do, to give me the opportunities that I had, that I
Mm.
also feel that's part of my mission now, is to do that same thing for others, to help them on their life's journey as well.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And that is absolutely true because now it is a form of, just still being out there. Just the only thing that you can do in that trimester of your life is sometimes it's almost like a sabbatical. You can just kind of do it in your own time, right?
Yes,
We're still
yes.
working, but we're doing it in our own time. We're always working and planning. I feel myself same boat. I mean, worked for companies, but now I feel myself just more creative,
Mhm.
trying things out, being more courageous about it, and
Yes.
thinking about myself of how I can do that in a very happy way that makes me happy and maybe others as well, right?
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
what we started with, not putting ourselves first, was what we
Exactly.
grow up with. Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
and that was part of the realization as I got closer to 55, and I realized, you know what? You haven't done anything for you.
yeah.
There has been no self-love or self-care. And when I finally made that realization, it was like, you know what? When I really thought about it, I'd never even taken a class or a workshop for pure enjoyment for me. And
Mhm.
so I looked into our local junior college. I found a beginning piano class, and I'd always wanted to learn how to play the piano. So I was like, I'm going to go take that class. I was the oldest person by far in the class. I did not care. I loved it. And then after that, then I signed up for a beginning drawing class. Same thing. Oldest by far in the class, did not care. I loved it. And so I found that once I started doing those things, they talk about, oh, my glass was half empty. I didn't even have a glass. I mean,
Yeah,
before
yeah.
I did that, there was no glass, It's like I
Yeah.
couldn't buy the glass. So, but by
Yeah,
doing that, I started filling that glass back up,
yeah.
and I just started feeling better about myself. And when I finally made that decision that it was going to be my final school year, because I did 30 years, and I knew I was good to go. I just decided that last school year, I was going to put it all out there. I had nothing to lose. And I really did. I went out with a bang. And in fact, so many people said, Patti, you're back at it. Don't retire, stick with it. And I said, the reason I was able to do it is because I knew this was going to be the end. And I wanted to end on a high note. And even though I'm as busy as I am, and I have several family and friends that say, Patti, you're busier now than you were when you were
Yeah,
teaching. The
yeah.
difference is they're all things that I'm choosing to do.
Exactly.
They're what brings me joy. They're what I know is helping other people.
Yeah.
I also know that I never ever want to stop learning and growing, because I believe that when you do that, you start to die,
Yeah,
and
yeah. One
I
thing, yeah.
never want to get to that
Yeah,
point.
yeah, one thing I wanted to touch on too, like you can't stop because if you're stop again, it's sedative, it's it's not moving, you're not thinking, you're not learning, you're not doing anything, the growth stops. And
Yes.
even a long time ago, when I was still working with people in addiction, and that was, a very grateful job and very big, helpful wise, helping others. It was also very stressful. But I remember seeing this picture coming by that some people just live their life, but they stopped living when they were 27,
Mhm.
right? It's just, and I ask myself that question so much, and I ask that many times on the show. I do believe there's also people that are not maybe that creative or don't know what to come up with, and that's why we also still have clients, right? I mean, people
Exactly.
are definitely in that midterm life of their life, in a sense of, but then what? Because if we don't feel as humans that we can contribute or be, find respect and find value for ourselves somewhere, then we just definitely stop living, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah. And that's why I believe that my big mission, my main talk that I do, like you said, you saw
Yeah,
my TEDx talk, is called about, are you living your best dash? And in there you saw that, I start my talk out by saying, how many of you are living your best life? And people, and the majority of people will say, oh yeah, that's me. They're raising their hand. Oh yeah, that's me. And then I'll say, well, let's take it another step further. How many of you can say that you're living your best dash? And then they're like, oh, what's she talking about? It's like, well, I'm not talking about the dash for cash or the 50-yard dash.
yeah,
And the thing I want people to remember, and my talk isn't meant to be morbid, it's meant to inspire, because
yeah,
every single one of us, we're going to have a dash someday, whether that's on a death certificate or a headstone or whatever. But that dash is that line that sits between your date of birth and your date of death. And
excellent, exactly.
when people see that dash mark, that represents your life and time here on earth.
Your
So
entire life, yeah,
yes. And so what does the story of that dash tell other people of how you lived your life?
yeah,
Is it going to be, when somebody looks at my dash, are they going to say, oh, she lived a life of would haves and should haves and could haves?
yeah,
Or are they going to say, oh my gosh, that Patti, even after she retired, she did this and she did that and she took advantage of these moments, and she not only, did these things for herself, but she also shared it with other people and helped them as well. I mean, and depending on the seeds that we plant during our lifetime, our legacy doesn't just stop at our date of death.
yeah.
Our legacy and our influence continues
It's
long after
after.
that.
Yes,
And
yes,
that's what, and I also want people to know, it is never too late to create a legacy that you can be proud of. Uh,
absolutely.
a really cool story that I just read on social media last night. There was this 87-year-old woman. Her name was Rose. And I guess after high school, she had started getting her college degree. But she met her husband, they had a family, and then life got sidetracked. At 87 years old, she went back to college and she finished her degree. I mean, come
Ah,
on. That is like living your dash to the fullest right
it's
there.
amazing.
I
Yes,
mean, that's
absolutely. Yeah,
incredible. So
yeah,
I don't want people to think, oh, well, I'm this age and it's too late for me to do this. And as
yeah.
I said earlier, you may not be able to do it the way that you would have done, but maybe you're going to do it even better now, because you're going to have more time to put into whatever it is that you're wanting to do.
Or
So
just a tad different. It doesn't always have to be the same. I go through that, and so many times my body doesn't allow me to do the fitness anymore that I used to
yes.
do professionally. So it has different twists and turns, but I can find different ways that makes
Hmm.
me feel content and happy, and
Yes.
I can still take a little challenge. Talking about your story, I just now this morning saw a lady who is a grandmother in Canada taking on what is it, the longest plank in the world. What is it? She had a 4.5 hour holding plank that she was holding on her elbows, her body, 4.5 hours for the, what is that?
For
The
Guinness World Book of Records.
The encyclopedia, not the encyclopedia there. I just forgot for a moment. But Guinness World of Book. Yeah, Guinness
Yeah,
Book of Records. Yeah. You said it.
yeah,
And the 4.5, she beat the other lady who was younger. And she's a grandmother. She said, I just picked it up, started practicing, have nothing to do, read a book while I'm holding a plank. I'm like, you're holding a plank and you're reading a book and you're doing that for 4.5 hours.
yeah,
Unbelievable, but we're not too old to pick anything up. And you are so right there. You are
yeah.
so right. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, I got very fortunate because a woman had heard my talk and she said, Patty, do you have an acronym for the word dash? Because I'm putting together a book that's got all these acronyms in it that are motivational, inspirational. I said, well, I hadn't really thought about that, but she goes, because I'd love for you to have a chapter in the book. I go, well, I can definitely come up with with an
Yeah.
acronym.
Yeah.
And I took it very seriously because I really wanted it to reflect what I mean by are you living your best dash? And so
Hmm.
that's how I came up with daring to achieve a successful and happy life. So like
Absolutely.
with the
Yeah.
workshop that I just did this morning, we broke down the dash because that, you know, that D for daring, what is it that we're daring to do? You know, and that doesn't mean, you know, climbing the highest mountain or bungee jumping off of a bridge. I'm talking about what are you daring to believe your life could be, what it could look like, you
Yeah.
know, and I read many years ago, if your dreams and goals don't scare you just a little bit, they're not big
Exactly.
enough.
Exactly.
And you know, and that's what it means to be daring about the life that you want to live, that you could live. And then with achieve, you know, what does that mean like for you? It's not to compare what other people think achievement is, but for you
Exactly.
in your life, what is it that you wish to achieve? What do you want to do? Successful. Again, it's not about keeping up with the Joneses by having the nicest house or the best car or the highest position in a company. Success is different for everybody, and success is different on every single day that we wake up. I know for me, some days success was me just getting out of bed. That
Yeah.
was the best that I could do that day, but you know what? I got out of bed. So
Yeah.
it's once again, it's not about what society says successful is. It's your term and what works in your life for what is successful for you. And then for happy, you know, when you have all of those things, when you dare to achieve to be successful, happiness plays right into that. And I want to challenge your audience the same way as I do when I go out and speak, that when you wake up in the morning and you know, you don't feel like getting out of that warm cozy bed, you get up and you go into the bathroom and you look at yourself in the mirror and you see your hair is all a mess and maybe you got a few wrinkles in your face because of what you were sleeping on or whatever. I challenge you watching right now to look in the mirror and say, I'm HAPPY. And I dare you not to smile or giggle or laugh, because what happens when you do that, that switch in your brain changes. Everything that you were going to do on that trajectory on that day changes completely by doing
Well,
that.
I am HAPPY.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. It
Yeah.
changes everything. And the ripple effect from that is endless. You don't
Absolutely.
know when you leave the house and just by you smiling, looking another person in the eyes, one, you're validating that person that they exist. And when you say hello, hey, or whatever it is, and you got a smile on your face, they may not smile right away, but you know what? You don't know what the effect is going to be because you validated that person. You saw them.
You
And
validated yourself.
that's
Yeah.
exactly right.
Yeah.
It's a two-way street. So dare to achieve a successful and happy life. What does that look like for you? I think it's important for us to know that. You know, in this workshop today, I actually made people draw this dash and I had them, you know, put their date of birth on there and then, you know, what were some of the milestones or the major events that happened in their life
Yeah.
leading up to today. And then
Yeah.
we started working on writing the things that they wish to continue. God willing, you get to continue that on. But still, to be able to see that and see where you've been and where would you like to go, that's powerful. Create that
Absolutely.
master plan.
Absolutely. And also, it's always stunning to me. I kind of do something similar. I call it a, yeah, I learned a long time ago. It's a kind of a trauma timeline, kind of
Mm.
like put the major things in there, the good and the bad, right? I don't want
Yes,
to
yes,
do the bad, but if you're working with clients, sometimes you have to go back to what were those significant dates that we repressed or that we don't want to look at
correct.
anymore, that we on purpose, forgot, but they keep triggering, right? That kind of thing. But it's very important. I also find that people just kind of, at some point, do forget if we don't put enough importance ourselves on what we already have experienced, right? We have already
Yes,
overcome so much. So why don't you
yes,
look back and look at how amazing you are? You
yes.
have achieved so much, so you can do it again, even if it looks difficult going forwards.
Well,
But you're touching on so many things. I mean, daring for me stands for courage,
mhm,
creating your legacy.
mhm,
Absolutely. But I mean, you don't want to have that little obituary that just said like, yeah, she was kind and she was nice. And I know that people don't want to hear that, but
mhm.
kind and
Yes,
nice. Yes, she didn't stop. That is
right.
way more fun. Yes,
Well,
absolutely.
and that's what I really love about the people that I have as guests on my podcast, Rediscovering Your Passion and Purpose, is because all of them in life, we're going to have our challenges and the obstacles. And what I love about these people that are sharing their story, they've had those challenges and obstacles. They've had their pity party, but they didn't pitch a tent and they didn't stay there. They had their pity party, but they looked at, what am I learning from this? What do I believe the reason for this is? And they got up and they dusted themselves off and they continued moving forward. And as I've said before, they not only changed their life or achieved the things that they wanted to, but now they're going out and they're also helping others with whatever their challenges and obstacles may be. And what I love about it is that even though the story they may be sharing is not the same struggle or challenges that the audience may have, but what you're seeing is someone that may have had a worse situation, and if they could get through it, you can get through yours as well.
Absolutely. And that is the beauty of stories. And I also love it when you have a story. I love to listen to stories, but I love your story about your dad, of course, because he was somebody in your life that you really, I mean, you keep on his sweater, you're holding on to it, you take it with you. It is an inspiration for you. And he was a very inspirational man.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
And I
talk about him a little. Yeah.
Well, that's one of the things that, I even know for myself, I cannot encourage other people to live their best dash if I'm not doing that myself. And I have been very, very blessed throughout my life to have so many influential people that laid such a magnificent foundation for me, to know what it was to be daring and I mean, I was the first female on both sides of the family to actually go to college and get a college degree. All of the females on both sides of my family, because of generation after generation, once you graduated high school, if you graduated high school, you basically you got your, what I call your MRS degree, your Mrs. degree. You found, your significant other, you got married, you had your family, and that's what you were supposed to do. So I
Mhm.
was daring to believe there was something more for me. I knew I wanted to be a
You
teacher.
broke the chain.
And,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
and and it was because of my dad, the examples that he set. He wasn't able to participate in school activities because he had to work. He had to have a job. He didn't want that for his children. And the way that he progressed through his life, going from 3 jobs at one point to finally getting established and having that one that he could still let my mom stay home full time, be a full-time mom and wife, which I think is the hardest job in the world. It was not the job that I wanted to have. She was magnificent with it. But the thing is, his example showed me exactly, when you dare to dream and believe, you can achieve anything that you want. And so
Absolutely.
to have that, and he wasn't perfect, none of us are perfect, but through that, I could see the areas that maybe he felt that were a weakness. When he admitted he was sorry, or when he would say that, that showed me so much strength in
Mhm.
him to
Yeah.
admit that, because that's the hardest thing for any of us, is to admit, I made a mistake.
Yeah. The
When you can
vulnerability
admit to
and
that,
yeah.
that's success.
Yeah.
I mean, that's everything. So to be able to have his sweatshirt, and I wear that, and it reminds me of all of those many lessons and the things that we experienced together. When I put my hand in my pocket and I feel his handkerchief, it just reminds me to keep going because of the struggles that I knew that he had,
Mhm.
and even health struggles. I mean, the last 5 years of his life was, it started with prostate cancer, it went to bladder cancer, and then finally it went to bone cancer. But the thing, and towards the end of his life, he said to me, he goes, Patti, I don't know why God still has me here. I think that I've learned all the lessons that I'm supposed to learn. And I said, you know what, Dad? Perhaps it's not about you learning any more lessons. Perhaps it's those of us that are around you, that we still have lessons to learn about how you are living your life to
Wow.
the utmost until the very end. And he sat there and wow, I never thought of it that way. And I could see emotionally, mentally, everything shifted for him, because he knew he still had a purpose. He
Yeah.
was still teaching his grandchildren, his children, and other family and friends that until his dying breath, he still had something to offer. And I mean, that's living your best dash right there to the very end. And that's what I want to be able to do myself. What a great
Yes.
example.
Yes, well, you're doing it. You're absolutely doing it. And I just get so fired up talking to you because we're just in the same realm. We're just swimming in the same realm, thinking
Mhm.
like, ah, we can't stop. We can't stop. And
Yes.
I also think sometimes, of course, I work with women a lot, right? Yeah, after the career of being a mom is over and you get into that life of emptiness, empty nesters, yes, you have to find something new. But it doesn't have to be necessarily, I always say, uh, a book or a show or, Crazy Alien, Crazy Patty, that's for us, right?
Right,
We
right.
have a little talk show or whatever, and we feel the need to get it all out there. But for other people, it might be just totally something, or some people go, I help them find their artsy self or their creative self, or they want to just go outside and do a lot with gardening, or maybe start working at a shop for a while just for fun,
Yes.
just to connect
Yes.
and interact and volunteer and be out there. So it
Yes.
could be anything and everything to fill that dash with something that you're really, really filled up about, right?
Oh,
Because that's
yes.
where that purpose and that happy comes in, that successful feeling. And I
Yes.
agree. I agree.
Well,
Yeah.
and you know, one of the other joys is, after I had retired, I decided, there's so many things right here. I'm born and raised in California, and there were so many things right within my neighborhood, so to speak, I had never been to my whole life. One of those being the Norton Simon Museum that I see every Rose Parade. They're filming right across from that, and I
Yeah.
thought, oh my gosh, here I am. I'm 55 years old and I've never been to that museum, and it literally is like within an hour from where I live. So I had decided, you know what, once a month, I'm going to take a field trip someplace that's within, a couple hours that I've never been to before. So I'm posting all this stuff on social media, what I'm doing. And so my fellow teachers that had retired and stuff, they go, Patti, you need to, take all of us on these field trips. You're really showing us how retirement life can be. And so one of my friends says, well, Patti, once an activities director, always an activities director. And I thought, oh, well, I'm a retired activities director. I thought, RAD, rad, I'm rad.
Yeah.
So I started this group that I call RAD, Retired Activities and Destinations. And
Oh, I
so
love it. Yes.
once a month, we get together and we either go on a little field trip. We've even taken a destination trip, or we get together. Like one of my friends, she was an art teacher, so she'll bring us over and she'll show us how to watercolor or
Mhm.
do other things. Another gal, she learned how to paddle board, so she started part of the anybody that wanted to go out kayaking or stay, you do paddle boards. I mean, all these women are like, late 60s, early 70s, and that
Yeah.
sort of stuff.
Yeah.
We're out there on the lake, we're doing all this kind of stuff. So everybody's got their little niche that they're still offering and doing. And it's been, I mean, it's now been what, 4 years that we've been having this group.
I love it.
It's wonderful. And
I love
having
it.
that community and having be a part of something like that, that's the other thing that gives you purpose.
Yes,
It
absolutely.
brings happiness and being able to support. And the thing that I love, we're all at such different ages in the group. I think our youngest person in the group is 53. The oldest, she's approaching 80, because of the lessons that the ones that are older, that they turn 65, so they're doing Medicare. The rest of us are like listening, like, oh, how did you do that? Or we're learning lessons from each other, and we're growing in ways that I didn't even anticipate any of that. So the life lessons that I'm learning from everybody, because they're all at different stages, and the things that able to offer the younger ones. I mean, what an amazing community we have built and continue to build.
Absolutely. I love that. The word is correct. It's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And I think it's all about but you plan it. Sometimes, yeah, I know I'm the one too, but you do it, you plan it, you start it, right? It's just like this kind of teacher, event director planning thing anyway that we already naturally have and be proud of. But I love that because it is all about the connection as well. We can't isolate. The world is already way. I'm going the other way. I want to do things to get out of the house and meet together again and listen. There was
Yes.
an event that I had a couple of weeks ago where, just like you said, somebody who is retired actually talked about how her career started and how she had to go through glass ceilings as a
Mhm.
woman in the 50s and 60s. And we were all like, we didn't know that about you. Right? You have these
Yes.
companies, you were the first woman, yada yada. So it's so amazing to hear that and to see that we all have so much to contribute and we look different than her, right?
Oh,
It's so cool. So
exactly.
it needs to
Yes.
be that social, that being together as well.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And like you said, it may be joining a garden club. It might be getting more involved in your church. I
Yeah.
mean, there's all kinds of ways that you can do that. And if physically you're not able to leave your home for whatever reason, this right here, this medium, I mean, I mean, through my podcast, I've not ever met, I mean, except for the people in my hometown that I had as my guest, but I'm interviewing people from all over the world. I now feel like I have connections and I have friends, and I really do have people that we have become very good friends all through this medium.
Yeah.
And I'm right here in my RV because I never know where I'm going to be in the United States. I can still make connections with other people through this incredible technology.
And that is so amazing. The platform here also for women. We can go all over the world at any hour. Somebody can pick up some information, listen to you. I mean, absolutely. And that is a great thing. We just have the means. We can do it anywhere. And we can make connections like I feel I've known you forever. It's just like,
Yes,
and that
yes.
is so, I love that too. I absolutely love that about it. Tell me a little bit about your podcast. Where can we find you?
It's called Rediscovering Your Passion and Purpose with Patti. And every single Wednesday, a new episode drops at 9 o'clock Pacific time. But I have two formats. So if you just want to listen, you can find it on Apple, Spotify, Podbean. There's about 5 different formats. And then I also put it, if you'd like to watch the video of the interview, you can see it on my YouTube channel with Pathways with Patti. That's my YouTube channel. And like I
Perfect.
said, every single Wednesday there is a new episode. I'm wrapping up. In fact, I just wrapped up this past week, season 3. So I'm going to be taking a 2-week spring break. And then when I come back, then I'm going to start season number 4. But literally,
Nice.
and it's just not, I mean, there's a few men that have been on it as well. The majority of them are women, but they are literally from all over the world. And it just goes to show you once again, no matter what part of the world you are in, we still have things in common,
Yeah.
and we still have ways to help each other no matter where in the world we are at.
I have always found that absolutely, and that's what I love with women because I've always found that, especially now in this fun part of my life, I should say, right? It's just wonderful, amazing that
Mhm.
that is when we all start kind of digging, like, oh yeah, we just kind of like did everything for everybody else. We have that in common. And
Mhm.
we're caregivers. We have that in common. We
Yes.
don't like to talk about our feelings so much. We have that in common. And then we dig a little bit and we laugh about it and we cry together. And it gets really intensive. And I love that. So
Mhm.
I think women are amazing in what we can do together and what we can bring to the world. Absolutely. Fantastic.
Yes.
What is
Yes.
the best way to find you, Patty?
You can go to my
Especially if I go podcast and your work and coaching and your courses, is it just your website? You have a beautiful website.
Yeah, go to my website, www.pathwayswithpatty.org. You can also reach out by emailing me at pastueland@gmail.com. And also the other thing too is on my website, if you want to, I offer a 30-minute discovery call. So whether you would want to be a guest on the podcast, maybe you want to see what kind of transformational coaching I do, or speaking, even if you want to ask about travel, because one of the things like I had mentioned, I started my Pathfinder Patti Travel. And part of that is my emphasis, my niche is group travel, and I look specifically for women that I want to do group travel, because a lot of women, even if their significant other is still alive, maybe they don't want to travel, but they want to. I want them to know that in my group travel, you can travel safely with
Yeah.
a group. We're doing a trip in October, the Taste of Britain trip. So whether it's travel or coaching or speaking or any of those things, the podcast, there's a discovery button on my website at www.pathwayswithpatty.org. Hit on that discovery button. That will sign you up. You can find a date and time on my calendar, and then we can talk about whatever it is that you would like to discuss and talk about, and we can go from there.
I love it. And I will certainly, of course, post it with the link in there so that people can find you. I'm going to wrap it up, Patty, because we can go forever. We can absolutely go forever. So you have to reach out and get more of us and definitely get more of Patty. Um, what is the good advice that you can give the audience before we run off?
My retirement motto has been life's an adventure, enjoy the journey. And what I want people to know is no matter whether the adventure seems positive or negative, those adventures are going to happen. It's all about the choices, like the consequences that we make, or the choices we make, they all have consequences, whether it's positive or negative. But I want you to learn what you can learn from it, and remember to enjoy the journey. Because if we're not enjoying life's journey, we need to reach out to people like you and myself and other magnificent people, because sometimes we just need to know there's a caring person out there that can help us to enjoy the journey. So, attitudes are contagious. Is yours worth catching? I want to know that each day that God blesses me with, that I have an attitude that is contagious for others to know that they can dare to achieve a successful and happy life.
I love that. I love that attitudes are contagious. Is yours worth catching on? I love that too, Patty, so much. Yes, that is a really, really, and it's so true. Are you the light of somebody else's hour, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, honey, for being on today. I love it so much. Everybody, reach out to Patty. I'm going to put a link, of course, in the show description. And of course, on YouTube, you're going to find us there. Patty, stay a little bit afterwards, and I am going to move on from the recording. Thank you, everybody, for watching today. Thank you, Patty, for being my guest today. I love you
Thank
so
you.
much. And thanks, everybody, for watching today live on this show. And if you're watching the replay, please reach out and let us know what you're thinking. Thank you for being on Allianz Joy today, and I will see you next week. Namaste. Make it a great day.